Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and this is set number 71847, the Guardian Dragon from the Summer 2025 LEGO Ninjago wave. This set contains 1,650 pieces, one minifigure, and will retail for $149.99 USD or €149.99 Euro. This set does not officially release until June 1st, 2025, but it was gifted to me early for review by the LEGO Group through the LEGO Ambassador Network, but all opinions expressed in this video are entirely my own. Real quick before I get started, I just want to mention that I'm doing early reviews of most of the Summer 2025 Ninjago sets, and I have lots more early reviews coming very soon. So if you enjoy this kind of content and you want to see more, liking and subscribing does a ton to help support me in the channel and also helps YouTube to show you my videos more often. So thank you all very much for the support, and now let's get into the video. So here is the Guardian Dragon, one of two sets as a part of the new Ninjago Legends sub-theme. If you're not familiar with what Ninjago Legends is, well, it's basically two things. On the one hand, it ties into a series of shorts that's releasing on LEGO's YouTube channel in June called NINJAGO Legends Monstrosity. Both of the sets in this wave are themed around those shorts, and I don't believe they're gonna appear on the main show. But the second thing is, Ninjago Legends is a new sub-theme for Ninjago generally, very similar to what Legacy used to be, and what it's aiming to specifically do is to create display models for older collectors. So as such, this set does a couple of things that most other Ninjago sets don't do. There's this black display stand that's built on top of, and the other Legend set is just like that. It also has a very similar stand. And the dragon itself isn't really a toy, it's more of a statue. It does have some points of articulation, and of course I'll show those off in this video, but it's not your standard Ninjago dragon. You can't really remove this from the display, and it certainly does not have the posability that standard Ninjago dragons do. This is absolutely made to be a shelf piece and is not meant to be played with nearly as much. So let me move up a little bit closer so I can show you guys all the different details of this build, and then we'll move back out and I'll give you my take on this set as a whole. So starting at the bottom of the stand that this is built on, we have this nice little oasis here. In the center of it, there is an all-new sword piece, and this is the same mold as the revealing blade that comes in like the main wave sets, but it's a different color. Instead of being dual molded in gold and transparent red, it's gold and gunmetal gray. As of right now, this piece only comes in this color in the two Legend sets. It's in both this one and the Fire Knight Mech, but it's a quite cool exclusive weapon to get. I mean, I love the mold generally. It's really cool as the revealing blade, but that like dragon hilt still looks amazing. Anyway, this is its spot. You can see it sits in the center of this pond. I love the way the pond was done. There's so much realism to it. It's got that, like, implied depth very similar to the Ninjago City sets, but instead of using, like, green and dark green, it's a light blue and then a slightly darker blue. So it makes this water appear a lot cleaner compared to, like, the Ninjago cities. There's a waterfall that cascades down off these stones, and I love this little There's this waterfall that cascades down off these stones, and There's a waterfall that cascades down off these stones, and I think this effect down here is really cool to make it appear as if it's splashing in the water. There's just some transclear studs sort of bubbling up. There's little bits of a stone pathway all throughout too, which is the perfect spot to pose minifigures. You do get one in this set who we'll take a look at later. And some nice bits of foliage all throughout too. There's 3 different colors of flowers in the water. These little like grass patches, which are funnily enough a LEGO Minions hairpiece recolored in olive green. LEGO has been reusing that hairpiece for other things since the Minions theme, but I always think it's very funny that that's where it originally came from. There is one little structure here, a shrine. You can see it's got this fire symbol and then 2 Ninjago banners. And if you translate it, it says Shrine on this one and of Fire on this one, so it's the Shrine of Fire, which I assume is meant to tie into the other set from this line, the Fire Knight Mech, because that belongs to a previous Elemental Master of Fire. So even though there's no Master of Fire in this set, the lore is still connected to this dragon in some way, or at least this location is. Turning around to the side, you can see there's yet another waterfall right here that starts even higher up, and that uses that same like bubbling effect here at the bottom. This I assume is the actual Shrine of Fire because it's right behind that archway. It's got 4 candles, 3 are currently burning and 1's put out, and if I remove them, there is another sticker piece behind them, which if I remove that, you can see there's a fire symbol and a picture of some cloaked figure. I assume this is either meant to be Kai during the Legends shorts or the previous Master of Fire. I'm very excited to see when those release. But yeah, that tucks away nicely, hidden behind those 4 candles. As I continue to rotate it, you can see there's a little tree right here with roots coming out of the side as well, right behind that waterfall. Lots more of this rocky terrain that goes up to form the dragon's perch. Here on the opposite side, we have a much more prominent tree section. In fact, you can see it better if I move the dragon's tail out of the way. But yeah, here's a quite large tree branch with a ton of foliage on it. They use the core Earth Dragon like horn pieces in brown here to be the tree branch. That's not the first time we've seen that, but it's still a really good use of that part. And then there's other like branches and roots coming out all over the place too. There's like a really long one right here, some smaller ones down here. And down here at the bottom, we have one more smaller branch with some leaves on it, as well as one more tiny little waterfall sort of tucked away behind these branches. And again, we got those transclear pieces coming up. The leaves on the larger branch, I'm very glad to say, is quite full. This is a critique I have of a lot of LEGO sets that include any sort of foliage. Often it's super thin. Like, my biggest go-to is the LEGO Avatar, like, big tree set. In the Avatar movies, that thing is breathtaking the way it looks. It's covered in these, like, beautiful pink leaves. And in the set, there was only a couple of them. It looked so empty, and I thought it was horrible. This one, though, despite only being a tiny little branch, feels super full. You've got 3 full-size leaf pieces and 3 smaller ones. and they're all so tightly packed together that this feels like how a tree should actually look. We also have some printed lantern pieces hanging off. This is not a new print, it's the same one that appeared in the Temple of the Dragon Energy Cores and the Dragonstone Shrine, but it is nice to get again, it's a Ninjago exclusive print. And then pretty much the last thing I have to show you with the terrain is these like 3 stone statues down here. They're all the same build, just different heights. This one's on top of a little cone, and that's pretty much all of it. It's time to move on to the actual dragon. I do like the platform that the dragon's perched on, especially like how they vary the stone. Things like this I find super neat, where they purposefully like build a crack into the stone. But now let's start with the feet of the dragon. You can see they're like wrapped around the stone to make it look like she's actually grabbing onto it. And the claws are posable, so you can see with this leg right here, I've got these two a little further back than this one. The feet themselves could be rotated back ever so slightly, like if you really wanted to move it, you could do that with it, while the other foot could pretty much only go 1 notch. So that's an option you have for anyone interested in posability, but yeah, probably just looks best to keep it down like this. And for those wondering, can you take this dragon off the build? Not really. It connects to the rest of the structure on Technic axles, so if you really wanted to, you could pull those out or remove the foot like this, and then try to do that with the other leg as well. There we go. So you can have it separate from the model like this, and surprisingly it can still stand up. But the thing is, this is basically all it can do. As I just showed you, the feet are not super posable, there's a little bit of motion, but that's it. And then the legs also, as you'll see in a moment, are asymmetrical, because it's meant to be a statue representing that pose, so there's not perfect balance between them when they're just on a flat surface. The other thing is, because this model is meant to be connected to that stand, it's a lot more fragile in some places than a play model would be, because it's not meant to be grabbed and touched in all these different places, so certain parts are a bit easier to come apart if you're moving it around like this. That being said, I am kind of surprised it comes off like this at all. I was fully expecting it to be fully integrated into the build, so in my opinion, this is more than enough, the fact that it can do this. If you wanted to modify it to turn it into just a completely separate dragon separate from the stand, you probably could, but it would take a bit. Like, a good chunk of the structure of the inside of this build would have to change. So I'm going to reconnect it for now, but yeah, for those who are curious, you can technically do this. With her reattached, here's a better look at the legs up close, and I adore the color choices here. They use basically every single shade of green that LEGO has. We have bright green right here, normal green on the sides, and then they even have dark green in a few places on this build, such as this right here. Also, because it's a statue and they don't have to account for like posability and everything, there's really not many gaps or like obvious joints here. They covered up basically everything to give it a super organic feeling. They use tons of different slope pieces, especially a lot of the newer ones that come from LEGO Speed Champions, and they all come together to give the dragon these like very defined muzzles. You can see tan is used as the inside color here too, it's also on the belly. And I feel like that contrasts so well with all of the greens. Just such a beautiful combination of parts. One of my favorites is this piece right here, and they actually use it in all 3 colors. We have it in bright green, regular green, and dark green right above it. There we go, there's that part. It's this sort of like diamond-shaped cockpit piece, but works really well to represent dragon scales, especially when they layer it the way they do on the sides of the legs. And it works really well for the knee too, because it covers up like the bend from these Technic pieces that are inside there. It makes it feel like a more natural transition. Here's probably the most obvious point of asymmetry in the build. You can see the upper thigh of this leg is slightly longer than the upper thigh of this leg. That's just because the bend in this leg is different, and because it's up a little bit higher, it had to be a little bit bigger up here. And that makes sense to me. I think there's a way that could have looked a little more natural, because it's obvious even from afar that these legs are not the same. Maybe including one of these ingot pieces like on top of one of these two to still have it in there, or maybe finding a way to leave out the ingot piece entirely, I'm not sure. But yeah, with it in there, I do feel like it's very obvious. It's not the end of the world, and it still looks quite cool. But it does sort of take me out of the set a little bit, because it's very clear to me that these are not the same leg. You can see the asymmetry on the sides a little bit too, right? All of this texturing around these 2 upper scales is very different on this side compared to the other side. Once again, because this is a statue and not a dragon that has to be played with, they get to do this really cool shaping in the torso. Essentially, it's made to look like the dragon is actively moving and bending its body, so there's this curve that happens here and then also happens up top with the head. That I think looks amazing, and it was very fun to put together too, because despite each of these segments like looking very similar from the outside, they are all slightly different, so it kept the build engaging and fun as I went through it. And once again, like, the gaps are covered up basically everywhere they could be. Even from the sides where the arms would normally block it, this looks phenomenal. I especially like the layering of these Nexonite shield pieces. You can see on this side, they don't have those Nexonite shield pieces in the same places because it's curving inward on this side, while from the other side it was outwards. Very nice sculpting on the chest here, especially in the transition from the lower part of the chest to this upper part. And then you can see they use like the Ninjago arrow blade piece in the center right here to be some sort of like core in the dragon's chest. I'm not sure if that's going to come into play in the shorts, but it looks really cool. The arms here are one of the few posable parts of the dragon because they connect on ball joints. Now I do think it looks best to at the very least keep the upper arms down, because then these tooth pieces sort of like circle these upper muscle pieces, and that creates a really cool effect, the way it's like a golden trim. But yeah, if you want to, you can move the entire arm, and that's going to push that golden tooth piece out of the way, and there's not like a huge range of motion here, but there's like a little bit you could do with this if you want to change how things are posed, and you can do even more if you move this up and out of the way. There is an elbow joint, which is a mini ball joint, so you can rotate this all the way around if you want. Also, of course, move it in, move it out a little bit. And then the hand is also on a separate joint at the end, so that can spin around too. And we have 3 individually posable fingers. My favorite part of the arms is definitely the spikes coming off the forearm. These are very specialized molded pieces. I think they were originally CCBS back in the day, though I'm not positive on that, but yeah, they've been around for a little while. Bright green, though, I'm pretty sure is a new color for them. If not, they've probably only been in, like, botanicals. But they give the dragon such an awesome silhouette. They look amazing, they add some nice bulk to the arms, in addition to, like, all this brick-built muscle they've been doing up here. And this isn't even the only place in the build where they're used. The other arm here is actually identical. There's no weird asymmetry with them, aside from, like, the torso itself being angled. And again, we have those same, like, giant spike pieces on the sides. At the very top of the dragon's body, you can see there's 2 more of those spike pieces, though this time around in gold. And they sort of serve as a barrier between the wings and the rest of the body. And then finally, we're up here to the head and neck at the top. This base part of the neck is locked in place, like that's connected to the rest of the body, but then this upper section is actually a mini ball joint, so there's a little bit of motion you can get there if you want to slightly change how the head is posed. When you bend it down, it does bend slightly to the side because that's the intended pose for it. You can't get it completely straight unless you modify the build. But then the head itself is on a mini ball joint, and that can move around a good bit more. Though as you saw, some of the pieces are a little bit loose if you try to move it, because this is not meant to be played with. I love how extravagant and over the top the dragon's horns are. Like, especially these back here are gigantic. This ring piece too, I think I first saw it in LEGO Monkey Kid, but I believe it might originally be a dots thing. Using that as like a big headdress would never work on like a play dragon because it is just too big. But no, it looks really cool here, especially with like the little ring of fire in the center. And then the headpiece, I'm very curious to hear everybody's thoughts on the headpiece, because this is something I myself am having like a hard time judging how much I actually like it. So this is an all new molded part for this wave. It's used in 3 sets. This one, the Temple Bounty set, as like the head of the bounty, and then it's also used in the Rontu set. Now the actual headpiece I do like. It's got like a spike on the nose, molded teeth, and room to print eyes on. Like it feels like it matches the modern dragons, feels very similar to the young dragon Ryu head. So I'm totally cool with the headpiece in isolation. What I don't like about it though is it does not have a matching jaw piece. Instead, the jaw has to be brick built. And I'm just very mixed on how I feel that looks. I guess it just seems a little mismatched to me because that head is so like intricately molded, so detailed in a way that LEGO bricks could not capture. That's why it has to be molded. But then the bottom jaw is a lot more simple because it has to be made of these blockier pieces. And like, yeah, you do have the 2 pieces on the side which create a somewhat interesting shape, but I just feel like the 2 don't go together the best, and kind of takes away from the overall look of the dragon. I don't know, at least personally, I'm not the biggest fan of mixing the brick-built jaw with the molded jaw. I'd be fine with a fully brick-built head, I'd be fine with a fully molded head with like 2 different molded jaw pieces, but half and half feels a little bit odd to me. It depends on the angle I'm looking at this though, and like how I'm feeling. I think open mouth looks a lot better than closed mouth. Like this to me doesn't look so bad. That feels like how a dragon should look. This though, I don't know, I'm a little less sure. Especially when you look at it from the front, I feel like that blockiness is really obvious. So while I love this set, at least to me personally, this is the part that I definitely find to be the weakest. I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments though, because maybe I'm off on this, maybe you guys really like it. How do you feel about the brick-built jaw with the molded head? Anyway, now moving on from the head, let's talk about the wings. These are gigantic. These might be the biggest Ninjago dragon wings ever. I'm trying to think. I think they might be. Even Source Dragon Emotion I don't think has wings this big. It's such a broad wingspan, but because it's not meant to be played with and it can't pose, they were able to do something this big, and I think that was a great idea. Interestingly too is they're sort of inverted with how dragon wings typically are. LEGO usually tries to hide the Technic pieces away on the underside of the wings, and you only see the part on top. So you usually don't see the printed part combined with the Technic pieces, but no, that's not the case. It's the inside of the wings here. So it's built to actually accommodate the Technic. If you just pitched that idea to me, I'd probably say I would think that looks bad, but having it in hand, no, I think it was actually done really well, and I think that's because they got all of the colors right. There's no weird Technic colors in here, right? There's no red Technic pins, blue Technic pins. It's all black, green, and tan, a little bit of brown, but brown works for a dragon, and then of course gold at the ends. And both wings are identical, though they attach at a curve to match the curve of the dragon's body. Here's how the wings look from the back where they're not printed, and I will definitely say this is the weakest angle of this entire set. Just the completely flat green does not match the detail of anything else. I don't know if LEGO's ever done a double-sided cloth piece before, but if there was a time to do it, it would be now. Because if this was as detailed as the other side was, that would be amazing. Because the rest of the dragon's back, I think, looks very nice. It's where all the dark green is, and you have these tan spikes coming off that transition into the tail. Down at the bottom towards the tail, there's more of these giant green claw pieces to be scales. And each individual section of the tail can be posed. They all connect on mini ball joints. So this is easily the most posable part of the build. The idea with it is you're supposed to sort of wrap it around this tree, so that way you can see the tail from the front of the build. Something kind of interesting is the back part of the tail is actually built sideways. The dark green's supposed to be on top and the tan's on bottom. But yeah, you can see the ball joints are sideways in there, leaving anti-studs on the inside here. I don't know if that was entirely necessary. I guess it keeps these segments very thin, but it does look good enough as long as you hide away those anti-studs. And you will be doing that if you're like tucking the tail around like this. But there we go, that was the Guardian Dragon, one of the first 2 Ninjago Legends sets. Of course, we still have the Wu minifigure to look at, but I just want to talk about the set overall first because it's fresh in my mind. I think it's really cool that this exists. I like that we now have a line of more older focused Ninjago sets, and ones that are focused more on display than play. All of that being said, as a collector, I much prefer play sets to display sets. I like when my sets can move around to do things, so at least to me personally, I do prefer the main wave stuff still. But as long as this is not replacing it and it's just something in addition to the main wave stuff, I think this is great and I want to see more of it in the future. In regards to this set specifically, I do think it's the weaker of the two. I'm not sure what order these reviews are going out, if this one's going to be before the Fire Knight Mech or after the Fire Knight Mech. But in that one, I really like the implied motion, the conflict in the display. This one, I don't know, I kind of wish there was a bit more for the dragon to do because it's just sort of standing there. But it does look very beautiful, and the sculpting and techniques all over are amazing. Honestly, my only real critiques with the actual build is I don't like the asymmetrical, like, thighs to the legs. I get that they would literally be asymmetrical, but I wish they looked a little less asymmetrical, because to me that doesn't really look like a bend. It makes it look like one leg is actually longer than the other. It's just that ingot piece really sticks out. And then the other thing is the jaw with the molded head. Just don't know how I feel about that. The rest of it phenomenal though, also the terrain at the bottom is really neat. Yeah, I think this is a good start to Ninjago Legends. I'll talk about the price at the end of the video, but in short, I like this. Very, very nice display model. Here's the one and only minifigure in this set, Master Wu, and I believe this is the first time we've ever gotten Wu in just a regular ninja suit. And by that, I mean he actually matches what the rest of the ninja are wearing this wave in terms of, like, his entire design. Sometimes Wu will relate to the ninja's outfits a little bit, but he will obviously still be in, like, his Master Wu outfit. This time, though, no, this is basically just a ninja suit for this wave using Master Wu's design aesthetics, which I think is really awesome. I'm not sure how that really fits into Legends since this takes place in the past, the set at least. It doesn't take place in the same time period as the new sets, but whatever, regardless, it's very neat to get this guy. He uses this new dual-molded dragon armor that all the ninja have this wave, specifically his is white and gold. That's the same armor piece that Zane uses, so that piece does come in 2 sets technically, and you can see it can hold 2 katanas out the back. Aside from that, he has his staff as an accessory. And then perhaps most surprising, if I remove his armor piece and his hat so you could see him a little bit better, he actually has an all-new face print for this minifigure. I never expected to get another new Wu face print because we were just sticking with the legacy one, it was fine, because that's the same one that was used in core. But no, I guess that one's gone. Now he's got this much more intense expression, which matches his whole, like, ninja battle suit that he has going on. But yeah, speaking of the outfit, I'm gonna pull over one of the ninja minifigures from another set just so you can see, like, how similar they are. Here's the Cole minifigure who comes in other sets this way if he does not come in this set, with his armor and hairpiece removed. And with them next to each other, yeah, you can see how similar these two are. All the ninja this wave have these tassels that hang down with one of their initials on it. So for Cole, it's the Ninjago letter C, for Wu, it's the Ninjago letter W. Wu also has his name written out right here, W-U in Ninjago. Then they all use a little bit of dark tan on their torso, which Wu also has. And then the one part where they sort of break away is the rest of the ninja use dark red on their legs. Well, Wu does have the same, like, knee pads the rest of them have, but instead he uses, like, burnt orange instead. So he does still differentiate a little bit, but this is easily the closest he's ever been to, like, the main ninja suits, especially because they have the same armor pieces and everything, which I'll put back on in just a moment. And then if we turn these two around, you can see Wu's back torso print, where he's got the first letter of his name, like, etched in here in one of his colors. There's the Ninjago letter W in a golden circle, just like Cole has the Ninjago letter C in an orange circle. And he has all these straps and pouches too, just like the rest of the ninja, it's just in a slightly different color. With the armor back on too, you can see how well these two actually match. And again, this isn't just Cole, this is all the ninja suits this wave that look like this. Aside from just matching the ninja, I think this looks incredible. The choice of colors is great, I love the dark tan on him, he also used that back in, like, Season 11 and Season 13. And burnt orange is pretty cool too. It's super neat after all this time to have, like, an official Wu ninja suit, and I would love to see more things like this in the future. Like, if he kept getting outfits that match the rest of the ninja, that would be amazing. Especially because he's not in the show right now, and I don't know if or when he's ever gonna come back. It is a little unfortunate that he's the only minifigure in this set, but because it's a Legends set and more focused on display, I do get why that is. Now, before I end the video off, I actually have one more thing to show you. Both of the Ninjago Legends sets come with these illustrated posters of the set, so here's the one that comes in this one. I love how this looks, the dragon looks so cool, and the fire ring above her head, interestingly, is just floating there. That's not actually a part of her horns. Wu's outfit looks amazing, fully illustrated too. Yeah, this is a very nice bonus, you can hang it up if you want. Paper is like a fine enough quality, nothing too crazy. It does have folds in it, but there's no, like, staple marks or anything, and it is just blank on the other side. I like this though, it's a little something extra thrown in the set. I hope we get more of these if they continue doing Ninjago Legends in the future. But now, overall, what are my thoughts on this set? Well, I already went over most of them, but now I guess let's talk about the price. $150 for this is okay, it seems a little bit high. Obviously, all LEGO is more expensive these days after just everything that's been going on for the past few years. That's just the nature of the market. And only one minifigure normally would be like a hit against the value, but for a display set it makes a little more sense. If you compare this to the display sets that some other themes are getting, this is actually a pretty good value because, yeah, they charge a heck of a lot more. And there is a large variety of pieces in this set, right? You have the super large wings and, like, all these different texturing pieces. So I get that it's probably a bit more expensive to produce than some other sets. So would I actually recommend it to you guys? I mean, it really depends on what you care about. If you're a huge fan of the show and you love the characters in it and that's all you really care about from Ninjago, this is a pretty easy one to skip out on. It's only one minifigure and it's a build that's probably only going to appear in shorts. You should really only get this if you want a nice looking Ninjago display model. And if that's what you want, I think this is it. But yeah, if you prefer the more traditional Ninjago experience that's more about play, or like equal parts play and display, this is just not trying to be that. But yeah, in terms of like an actual display model, it's phenomenal. Again, check the end of my initial review to hear my full thoughts on this. I have a few minor nitpicks and like the price could always be better, but I think it's a really good thing that this set exists and I do like it a lot, and I cannot wait for whatever's next. But of course, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of this set in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and let me know in the comments which summer 2025 Ninjago set do you want to see an early review of next. But as for this video, I think that's about all I have to say, so thanks for watching everybody, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!